All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to WasmCloud Wednesday for Wednesday, June 25th. Let me go ahead and take a quick peek at the agenda for today. Essentially, what we've got is I marked this as a discussion, but I think there might be a demo. I don't know. Maybe. Yes, demo and discussion. I wanted to welcome a new community member to the WasmCloud community, Elizabeth. I think you've been around for quite a while in the Wasm ecosystem, and just recently been getting a little bit more involved in Wasm Cloud and on the Cosmonic side. Elizabeth, do you want to do like a quick intro of yourself, like your involvement, and then what you want to show with your project?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've been around in WASM for about 3 years now, because that's when I started my PhD. I'm a third year. Well, I just finished my third year at Carnegie Mellon, doing research on WebAssembly instrumentation. So yeah, what I mean by instrumentation is like the ability to instrument some programs with some logic that enables you to do some dynamic analysis on your code while it's running. So those can be things like branch profiling or building out call graphs or flame graphs, like things like that are primarily built using instrumentation. So I have been working on this framework, which has a lot of different components to it. So it's called whamm, which is a fun name. I feel like it's really memorable. Yeah, and what it is this way to instrument your code. You write your code in a DSL, and the DSL is inspired by dtrace, if anyone's familiar with that. So you have these high-level events that you're wanting to hook into in your program, and there are two different strategies it can use to instrument a program. You can either instrument with static bytecode rewriting. So it'll look at your WASM bytecode, inject some logic at those event locations wherever they happen in your bytecode, and then you'll have this now instrumented program that'll be performing your dynamic analysis as it executes. Um, or you can instrument through dynamic instrumentation. So you can interface with the engine in this new interface that we built out on the Wizard research engine, if anyone's familiar with that. So basically, there's this standalone instrumentation module that expresses the instrumentation in the module, and then the engine loads this module as this kind of like side thing that's going on. And as events occur dynamically in your program, it'll fire those callbacks in your instrumentation module. So the instrumentation module itself is monitoring what's going on in your dynamic program. So I can show some of what's going on by sharing my screen, and we'll see if sometimes demos get a little weird. Fingers crossed this one doesn't get weird. Um, how do I collapse this so it's less annoying? There we go. Okay. So I have a couple demos. I think Brooks actually just sent a link to the repository. It's just under this demo folder. So there are two different demos. This one's simpler. It's literally just counting the number of calls that happen. In your program, there's this really simple WASM like handwritten application that does nothing interesting. Um, but inside here, like what I said before, you have these high level events. So this is the match rule. So I'm looking in my WebAssembly bytecode for any call opcode that occurs. When I see a call opcode, I want to insert some logic before that occurs. I only want to instrument calls where the arg is like of some type, arg0 specifically meaning the first argument to my call. This is further predicating on my match. So I want to only match on the calls where the immediate to my call is 2. The first argument to my call is 0, and this is what I want to do. So I can take this out to make it simpler, but it's just going to be less precise. But what it's going to wind up doing is constraining this match to whatever event I'm really looking for in my application. So maybe I want to look for all of the calls to call number 2, because with WASM semantics, the immediate to the call opcode is the call target. So the function 0, 1, 2. So anytime I'm calling this function, because that's the function ID 2, so I would be instrumenting this location because it looks like, yeah, it would need to be that location if it's the, if arg0 it equals 0. But anyways, so if I'm going to run this on my application, then I would do I have a little CLI, which is nice. I can also use the CLI to help me build out my script. So there's some nice functionality here. So we have a couple different options. We're going to use to instrument is this instrument command. I can also pull information through this info command. So let's say I want to get more information, specifically the bound variables that are at the rule WASM opcode call before. So that helps me see stuff that's in scope. Because as you can tell, like there's weird random variables that have been showing up in this script that I haven't defined anywhere. And that's because different parts of this match rule bind variables when they come into scope. So I can see all the different bound variables that I can use because of these different parts of the match rule. So the WASM provider gives me things like FID and PC offset, the function name. So these are all of the things that get defined when I'm traversing my program and trying to find these events that I'm wanting to instrument. So if I'm wanting to constrain this to only the WASM opcode calls that occur inside FID 0, then I would put that FID equal 0 in my predicate because I'm predicating more on the event that I'm trying to match. Then there's more bound variables inside that's bound by this call event. So it looks like I'm using immediate 0 and arg0, which are bound here. So the immediate 0 is the immediate to the opcode at index 0. So for a call, it's the call target, FID, and then the arg0. And the reason why it says unknown is because you don't know the type of a call until you have the program, the call itself. So I know what this call is, but I don't necessarily know what the type of this call is because it doesn't have a program. It's just this program agnostic instrumentation definition. But once I have a program that I'm tying it to, that's where my type information comes in and why I have a type bound on like what I'm constraining it to be. Anyways, so that's like this high level description of the calls monitor. And if I want to actually run it, then I would use my whamm instir command, which requires a script. And then I also want to do bytecode rewriting. So I'm going to take this this application WASM file, and I'm going to instrument it. So cool, it didn't die, so that's a good sign. So this winds up by default just putting the instrumented application to output.wasm, so it's here. So I will do this to print out my WASM bytecode to a human readable WAT. So cool. So now we have an application, my app.wat, that has now been instrumented with a bunch of stuff in it. So it's found all of the calls that have matched my event definition, and then it's inserted this count incrementing, incrementation, whatever that word, it increments count. So if I look for this call, Um, where did it increment? I wonder if the arg wasn't 0. Okay, we're just gonna remove that. There we go. Okay, so it must have been on the predicate, like something wasn't actually activated. So when it does a call foo, it has all of this stuff injected beforehand. So you can see like before it was just brif and then a call, but now it has all this other logic, which is doing my increment on this count variable. So yeah, I can like read this to you guys, but I feel like it's not that interesting. Just trust me that it does an increment. And if I run it, then I it's a really long command. So I'm running this on Wizard. This is an environmental variable for this library that I'm using to do like more sophisticated stuff. In this case, it's just like printing. Um, and then this, oh wait, this is the dynamic one. Hold on. I want to do the bytecode rewriting. Um, there we go. Okay. So I'm activating multi-memory. This is to support this import. This is that environmental variable I said before. It's running the output.wasm, and then I'm adding in this library that WAMM interacts with to do some more sophisticated stuff. So if I run it, then it's printing out all of these the probe state for all the probes that were injected. So all of these calls that were instrumented, I have one report for each of them, and it's the number of times that count was incremented. In this case, I guess it reached all of the counts one time. Um, I don't know how much detail y'all want me to go into this. I can show you the branch monitor if you're interested. But yeah, there's like more features in the DSL as well to do like globbing. So if you're wanting to match on multiple different events, you can use a pattern. So in this case, it's going to match on all of the WASM opcodes that match the pattern star if. So it'll be the if opcode, the BR if opcode, those types of things. But yeah, it does all this stuff for you, and this report keyword tells it to flush at the end of program execution. But yeah, I'm trying to make it high level intuitive, and this is just the bytecode rewriting side. But
Cool. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing. I think anytime we get into what, it's a good day, going
yeah.
deep. I think how much have you talked about like some of the things that you can do with this? You know, me personally, I'm really excited about the idea of being able to add logging and observability tracing after the fact. Like I don't have to go and edit somebody else's code to be able to get logging for what type of WASI syscalls they're calling, and being able to say whether or not, you know, what are they using the socket for? Like I'm giving them a socket, but are they actually like creating lots of different sockets? You know, how are they interacting with the system? So that it's going to be, I think, really powerful, at least for observability, but I bet you thought of a lot of other things that I'm not calling out.
Oh yeah, like another cool thing that we built out like this past month was a cache simulator. So if you're wanting to see what would happen if I ran this type of cache on my program, um, since in WAM you can use libraries. So what that looks like is, where is it? Yeah, so you can like use a cache library that you just provide as the WASM module, and then you can just call into this library, and the library does more sophisticated things for you. So this is an entire implementation of like a cache. Um, and since this helps a lot with like scope creep in WAM as well, so The DSL does what it's good at. It helps like stitch together your program and your logic and pulls out program state that you need. So you can really do whatever you want just by providing like this really simple interface with this library. So you could really do like this logging that you're talking about, where you pass the program state that WAMM has readied for you to your library, and then your library does whatever you want. And so there are like a lot of different sophisticated use cases that can happen. And as we gather more, I can add more expressiveness to the DSL to make it not look crazy.
Oh, this is so great. I think people that are building with WasmCloud, they're usually building out platforms. And so I would imagine that this is going to be one of those tools in a lot of platform engineers' toolbox where they want to be able to instrument the types of components that are running on their system. Now, they likely will probably be doing this from a CI side of the world, but as you mentioned, you were able to do this with Wizard. So you can also potentially plug this in at runtime with runtime. So there's a
Yeah,
lot to explore here.
another thing that I'm trying to get working is so right now this is very low level, which you probably noticed from this like instrumenting WASM opcodes. But it's going to be good if there are these higher level abstract events to make it more usable for like non-low level people that read WAT. Or like if you wanted to make source code events. So if you're wanting to instrument like some location that is encoded in the dwarf, it'll be really powerful to expose those types of events to users rather than like it be always being this low level framework. And if we can just build on top of that, like that's really awesome.
And that's where I'm really excited about your work for adding component model support. Like right now,
Right.
what you demoed obviously was with WebAssembly modules, but with components, you will have higher level metadata that we can key off of, and it'll hopefully be a little bit more user friendly, even just by adding that one feature. So I'm
Yeah,
pumped.
yeah, and that's why so WAM on the back end uses Orca, which is this other Rust library that we've been building. And Orca has the ability to instrument components, which I know some people, I don't know if Victor's on here, but like he was using that to do some type of instrumentation on some, I don't remember what it was, but it's cool to kind of see that like this is starting to get, like people are getting excited about doing instrumentation and building out this a really nice suite of like tools and frameworks to do that. It's just going to make it better. So
I saw a wild Victor appear for a second there. Hey, Victor.
Hey, yeah, I wanted to just note that, yeah, what I was working on was dynamic instrumentation of just like we had to do there was a little bit of work done like that had to be done to sort of like prevent basically all the optimizations that your code would normally do, right? So like if you have up, like 5 functions, right, they get inlined when like in a language like Rust. But basically, yeah, there are a lot of paths to getting automatic instrumentation sort of like just working right at the function boundary. So that was what I ended up working on, and like this is another way there, which is really awesome.
Cool. Anybody else on the call have any questions for Elizabeth? I'm hoping you'll update us as your work progresses, and we can see some more WASM instrumentation.
yeah, definitely.
Oh, another group of people that might be really interested in this is like the original crew, like that worked on dtrace, right? I know there's a whole bunch of them over at Oxide and stuff like that, but they'd probably be really interested to see sort of dtrace get sort of revived, or its ideas get sort of carried on in a new platform.
Dtrace rides again. Yeah. Did you have a question, Brooks?
Yeah, I think I saw this in your readme, but just to ask, since most people who work in the Wasm Cloud ecosystem are like we're dealing with components, does this tool have support for components? Is there any like limitation there or like um you know, yeah.
So part of what I'm going to be doing in the next couple of weeks is getting WAM working with components because there's no technical reason why it doesn't. It's just I haven't added that yet because it uses Orca on the back end and Orca can do component instrumentation. So I just have to expose it in the DSL. And it'll be nice to have access to actual components instead of me trying to figure out what a component really looks like because I've been mainly working with modules this whole time. So it'll be nice to have like actual components to figure out how to um, like if you're wanting to instrument a specific module within a component, what's the most expressive, like intuitive way to say that in the WAM script to kind of constrain these matches in the predication? So yeah, I'll be able to expose the functionality pretty easily, but it's the making it nice in the DSL that may take a little bit more time, but I can craft that as I start like working more with them.
Awesome. That's super cool. Wasn't even a planned question. I didn't know you were working on that. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I just can't wait to try like once we take a look at like your work and everything. I can't wait to try to do fun things with this with the components that we have for Wasm Cloud. Should be super fun.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah, I got a Blobby working about an hour ago, so be playing around with Blobby.
No, little blobby tables.
Yeah.
Awesome. Folks, do folks have any other questions for Elizabeth? I did put a link to the repo in the chat, but I'm sure we'll bring it back up at some point if y'all wanted to take a look at the code.
Yeah. And as people, if they start playing around with it, you'll probably hit bugs and I will react to them and get them fixed. Just as a caveat.
Yeah, Elizabeth, and once you add component support, if you want people from the community to just like bash on it or try it out or whatever, I think if you drop a message in the Wasm Cloud Slack, people probably will.
Yeah. Sweet. Thanks.
All right, folks. Yeah, thanks, Masood. Um, all right. Well, that was definitely the more exciting part of today's community meeting. On to the next part, which is maybe slightly less fun. I wanted to talk a little bit about um, pull request bankruptcy. So I tried to be a little cheeky with this, but really what it means is we have quite a lot of pull requests that are out in the Wasm Cloud like mono repo, like the primary repo right now. Many of which are either completed or ready to go in or just stuck on like a small stuck on an integration test that's unrelated to the PR. And I think we've been sitting in that state for maybe a little too long. I certainly know that, and I will call myself out for the built-in HTTP server tests. When I added path-based routing, I added a test. I know that that test is flaky. I don't know why it shouldn't be, but it is. And that holds back PRs that are unrelated to it. And that's pretty frustrating, especially when we have folks like Aditya who've added a cron job capability provider, supported constraining components by memory limits. We have folks like Randall, who is like a community member. I don't think he's been on the call, but like implementing some fixes from the roadmap that could be done. Massoud, you've added the NATS blob store provider and the HTTP client built in, both of which I believe are functionally complete and approved. I know it says me, but ignore that. I just rebased it. Uh, and that's dumb. I really feel like we've been going for a little bit too long in this current mode, getting blocked by some of these tests or our CI or what have you. So I would like to declare PR bankruptcy. And what I mean by that is I'd like to spend some time this week taking a look at some of or essentially all of the PRs that are out there. For some of these, like a draft PR that I opened in May, well, that's not that far, but last updated in May. For me, I'm probably either just going to try to shape it up or close it to help clean up the issue backlog. If there are any dependabot changes that are based on failing tests, we can pull them into one PR. And then for these pull requests, like HTTP client provider, where we are, trying to get this merged and it's failing on a test because of HTTP server, I'd like to propose that we disable that test, file a bug report that the test is flaky and will fail on things that are unrelated, and we merge that in. I don't want to take anything too drastic of a step like disabling all merge protections and then force merging everything and then figuring it out later. That sounds bad, but I'd really like to try and spend some maintainer time to get these PRs in, because it's starting to stack up on the burden of people who are maintaining the project to try and keep up with these. And like, you know especially if it's like dependabot, like bumping clap, and then like the built-in HTTP client test fails. It's like, this is stupid. It already spun CI for 30 minutes to get to this point. Like, let's not do it. Okay, sorry for the very strong words and intense emotion coming out of this session. But I wanted to, most folks who are maintainers and I'm looking at a lot of the people in this call who are approving these PRs and saying, that test was weird, let's rerun it. And then it goes into the merge queue and then it fails there and then you have to re-queue it. Does anybody have any concerns with this approach? Are there any pull requests that are out there right now that I should be concerned about as I'm going through? I plan on taking a look at each one and seeing if it if if a test is failing, if the functionality was affected by that PR. And if it's not, then I'm gonna file that as a bug and try to deactivate it. Um, Victor.
So, Brooks,
Yeah.
is the what's the sum total list, the enumerated list of things we want to disable then for this?
Okay. I don't have that full list. But I do know that the one that I would certainly like to disable for this is, I'm not sharing anymore. Sorry. Um, this is the pull request that adds the built-in HTTP client provider. I would like to double check that nothing affected the server code in this. But this built-in HTTP path routing, which is the built-in
Okay.
HTTP
Yeah.
server, is
I've wanted to yeet that thing into the sun for a long time because it always fails randomly for no reason, and I don't get it. So yeah, okay. I'm all on board. I just want to make sure we probably just say, okay, like here's the tests, just in a single PR, just go through and we just say, okay, here's the tests for disabling, and then just put them in there and then open the bug report for it because yeah, those are gnarly. Um,
yeah. Yeah, I know it's that one. I'm not really sure if I'm not really sure if there are others that seem to be triggering this. Like if there's legitimate failures in the CI, like, the PR isn't passing a cargo build, then like I'm not force merging those. But yeah, I'll open up maybe that's the best way to expose that list. Taylor, just open up a PR with like, here's the test we're going to disable and here's why and here's the follow-up issue.
Yeah, I think that'll just make it clear. Like I'm not super worried here. I'm just trying to make sure we don't lose anything in the shuffle. So I think we open up here because like that one, we're just gonna have to comment out that test, I think really is or ignore it, add an ignore to it. Um and then um and actually Masood just gave a good suggestion too. I think that might be a good thing we send out maybe in Slack too, and also from this meeting is just say like, hey, if you have an open PR and it's been blocked on tests, can you like check if it is related if you're fairly certain it's not related or related to the PR intended, and then that should lower our burden, especially since a lot of them that are out there are maintainers. So, like I think we just do that. I think we just keep that like we comment out what we need to comment out, and in the PR label any other like checks we might have disabled if we need to disable a whole check,
Hmm.
and then put that in the issue just so it's in both places and people can then see the history of it when we go back and check, and then we talked last week anyway about doing the whole like changing up some of the way we're doing the tests and stuff, and so it probably will get addressed through that as well.
I think that sounds like a great suggestion. Seems pretty fair to put it on the original like PR opener. I honestly just kind of feel bad, like that it's possible that some of these changes have been affecting people who like spent their open source credits and time to contribute a thing. But I think that sounds great, and you know,
I get the feeling, Brooks, as
yeah.
someone doing said thing with open source time, like I Brooks got my rage post, and I was like going through when I was going through the whole like, oh, I did this, and then I kicked this, and then I had to kick this test, and then I had to rebase this, and then I had to redo it after it failed the merge key. And I was like, okay, so I get it, but I think we'll get any of the ones that aren't like, I think we just say, especially maintainers, like, please go check your PRs, let us know. That'll make it easier on the rest of us, and then we can go through the rest of the PRs and take a look.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. Um, well, then what I can do is put out a message in the WasmCloud Slack. Pretty much everybody who's contributed something in the open PRs is in the WasmCloud Slack, so I can tag some folks, or just tag them in GitHub if not, or do both. But we can get folks to take a look at their PRs, see if it's being blocked on tests or things, and then, sorry, Taylor, was you or Masood? I can't remember. It was the suggestion to add another commit to the PR to ignore or comment out to ignore the test or separate PR.
I was saying separate PR,
Okay.
and we can
Okay.
rebase um, the stuff on that to unblock things, and especially because now that GitHub has the rebase, like instead of just the merge commit, we can hit the rebase button and not have to make people do it.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good to me. Um, yeah, I mean, my whole goal for this is one, to try and get in a lot of these PRs that have been outstanding, and two, it gives us a lot more ability as maintainers to like give attention to the new issues that are new pull requests that are coming in. Like this contributor on like we have well I'm sorry, I don't know who F4Z3R Jacob like has contributed a couple things that are on the current roadmap. Giancarlo came in and like fixed an issue with the policy manager, and I like it's just been lost in my GitHub inbox because I keep like rerunning tests and then getting mad.
That's honestly the biggest thing for me is I have so many things in my inbox that like if I go back and run a test and then it doesn't merge, it gets lost really easily.
Sorry, I asked if anybody had any concerns and then I just kept talking. Does anybody else have any concerns, suggestions? All right. If you're on the call or listening, hello everybody at home. Consider this your official ask to go take a look at the PRs that you have open, and if there's anything that's getting blocked by a test or really just something that's like not because of your contribution or control, let us know. We can try and we can file issues for this and get those resolved one at a time and help get the contribution done. Um, yeah. Yeah, Masood.
Quick question, Brooks. Because Taylor and you talked about a new PR. Do you want us to validate and then issue a new PR? Or just comment on the ticket and say that I have validated and it's not related or it's related or whatever?
I think if it's not too much work, I like Taylor's idea to have it as a separate PR. That way we can like see in the PR list like here's where we disabled this test and like have that linked in the bug issue. Um, that would of course require that people who want to disable a test or something go back through and rebase onto main. I hope that wouldn't be too big of an issue, but yeah, I slightly prefer the separate PR for trackability, but yeah, Taylor, do you have any more do you want to add?
I can
And
go
then,
open
and
an
then
issue right now. Like that's what I was thinking. Maybe we can tell everybody here's the issue, and this is just we're gonna track everything. It can just be a meta issue that we close and we can like fully compile it at the end. But like we just open a tracking issue and say, okay, if you see a test that you're pretty sure is just flaking and causing an issues and doesn't have a thing, like please comment it here, and then we just drop it in there.
so
That
what's the
work?
verdict? Should we do this a new PR or we just comment on that issue? Because again, I'm asking is if I, for example, for mine, should I close the existing PR and then issue a new one and also comment on that, let's say, meta issue that you want to open?
No, I don't think we want to close. I think what we do is like let's give this a week, have everybody comment in, and then open one PR that basically closes that issue to disable the tests that are, and then everybody can rebase on it once it's on main. That's my thinking of the order here.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
But does that work for people? I'm honestly like I'm not married to the idea. It's just throwing out what seems like it might be an okay process. Okay, I'm literally gonna go do that right now.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Taylor. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, all right. Thank you, Taylor, for creating that issue, and we'll get on it. I do want to open up one more discussion item that I forgot about, but I wanted to send a warm congratulations to Lachlan, longtime TypeScript maintainer turned CI maintainer. Lachlan's contributed a lot of our CI. He's still on TypeScript. He's not a CI person now, but he is. But just not only that. Lachlan has contributed a ton of our CI pipelines and has made a bunch of changes. And so he's now able to help out with some of the CI reviewing things. And I wanted to extend a warm congratulations to Massoud for becoming a maintainer of, I believe, capability providers is the specific area. But really, where to go? Where is it? Mhm.
Right there, you found it.
Yeah, capability providers. This is an open source project. The titles are made up and don't matter or whatever. But what does really matter is, how much Massoud has contributed to the WasmCloud project. As we just called out, like in this current pull request backlog, he's contributed the NATS blob store provider, the built-in HTTP client provider, and generally has been offering fantastic feedback and thoughts across the Wasm Cloud ecosystem for quite a long time. So thank you so much, Lachlan, for stepping up, and Massoud for being a maintainer and spending your time to be here and help out. It's my favorite part of working in open source for sure. Um, So Masood, I think we have about 15 minutes. If you've prepared your speech, you can go ahead and do that now. It's okay if we need to run over, but yeah.
Well, I just want to thank everybody, you know. Again, this is a community work, and I'm happy to be part of the community, right? I know that I blabber a lot, so it takes quite a bit for people to just listen to what I say, and I appreciate that you're extending, let's say, this opportunity to me. Uh, I try to be a better maintainer. So if I didn't do well, please let me know, and I will try harder.
No, Masood, you're doing awesome. Thank you. Also, thank you for dealing with my shenanigans actually doing maintainer speech.
I only give speeches if I have a trophy I can hold while I'm doing it, like at the various movie awards.
Mhm. All right, folks. Well, I think that's probably all for today. I think that thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming on and doing a demo and introducing Wham to everybody. It's always cool to see more Wasm projects come into the general community. And yeah, I think that's it. Um, Thanks everybody for coming out and hanging out for Wasm Cloud Wednesday. We'll see you next week. Next week's not a holiday, right? No, holiday Friday. Yep. See you next week. But we'd see you anyways. Okay, whatever.